I'd like to welcome everyone to the Emmaus Borough Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the agenda is personal appeals. If you have a personal appeal, approach the podium, state your name and where you're from and what your appeal is. You have 5 minutes. Good evening.
My name is Paul Anacci. I'm a borough resident.
Paul, could you spell your name for me, please?
IANNAC. 60 Saracen Street. Been a borough resident for close to 30 years. Been in law enforcement close to 30 years. Prior to that, in the United States military as an officer. I heard some news that I wanted to bring up to the borough council. First of all, thank you for doing this job. I know it's a thankless job, but I guess you're going to elect a new chief of police. And you're going to the outside, is that true?
We're interviewing outside, but we're also interviewing inside. So, yes, it's true that we're going outside, but
So, I worked with the Pennsylvania State Police for most of those 30, I worked with Secretary of Defense. And as you are aware, the borough has had a lot of accolades since 2000. I think this is from your website, 2007. Ranked number 2, ranked number 10, 7, 5, throughout different industries for distinguished accomplishments. And probably a lot of that is because you had a great police department. And people who have been the chiefs of police have been borough residents and grew up through the ranks here in Emmaus. I think you would do a great disservice if you went to the outside, and you would probably tarnish your record if you elected someone from the outside of your police department. You have a great police department. I don't know. My name is well known throughout the valley, and 10 counties surrounding the valley for work I've done with the state police. My pitch is to stay inside the borough. I don't think it'd be a good idea to go outside the borough for the chief. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else with a personal appeal?
Go fill us out. Sorry.
Please put your name and I think it asks for your address.
Thank you.
Chief will have an appeal. All right, hearing none. Anybody have anything to bring forward for a community minute?
Sure. Just wanted to say that I want to welcome our newest business today in Emmaus, the bird.
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. That opened today. Welcome to the borough.
Terry?
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that Saturday, November 27th is Small Business Saturday. There will be a lot of activities. A lot of stores are involved. It starts at 11 a.m. Many sales are going to be going on. There's a swag bag with merchandise inside. And there is a fun sign that's going to be on at Triangle Park called Show the Love, Shop Emmaus. So that'll be a fun photo op. So if you get out to support it, it should be a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for a community minute? Okay, hearing none. We have 2 special presentations tonight. We're going to start with the construction financing presentation by Brian Pottenstein and Kevin Reed. Did I say it correctly?
It's Hottenstein.
There was a 50-50 shot.
It was a 50-50 shot.
I even discussed it with the mayor. She wasn't sure either.
No problem. Good evening. It's nice to be here this evening with all of you. My name is Ryan Hottenstein. I'm with FSL Public Finance. We're engaged as financial advisors for the borough on the proposed financing for the new capital project fund that you are looking to undertake. With me this evening is Kevin Reed from King's Drive. Kevin Reed serves as bond counsel for the borough on financing transactions. I've passed out a little bit earlier, a quick 6-page handout. It kind of goes over where the borough is currently in regard to the outstanding that it has, what we'd be looking at moving forward for the project, and then goes through a tentative timeline of what we're looking at, the steps needed to be undertaken to finance the capital improvement project. So if you take a look at page 3, this really just shows where you currently are. Borough currently has a 2011 note outstanding as well as a 2015 note. And the final maturity of the 2011 and the 2015 notes occur in 2026. Total debt service on average right around $625,000 to $640,000 a year. The chart on the bottom just simply shows the same thing. What we're looking for is finance the new money project for the borough's revitalization of the city of Borough Hall, which is currently estimated around $13 million. So how do we look at finance? So we're looking at doing two things. One, we'd be looking at taking out the existing debt and then also borrowing new money for the capital projects. At the same time we're looking at that, we're also looking at the potential to borrow additional funds for some sewer projects as well. And that the amount of the sewer projects for the time being in this estimate here is at $4 million. That could obviously change the way we end up moving forward based on sewer needs for once. But for the purposes of this analysis, we assume $4 million sewer project and then about a $13 million project for Borough Hall. The refinancing of the 2011 and the 2015 notes really wouldn't be a refinancing as much as it would be an easance of that debt using the cash that you currently have on hand. The borough has proceeds from the sale of the prior property that you had purchased. We use those funds to defease that outstanding debt, which would mean they would be gone, it would be done, don't have to worry about that. And then we would undertake the new borrowings for the two projects. The way we have this currently structured would be fixed rate bonds. They would be publicly traded bonds that we would sell on the open market. They would be fixed through maturity, so you have no interest rate risk from the time of pricing until final maturity. The only thing that you would have to worry about on interest rates changing is if in the future you decided to refund those. But as far as any interest rate movement once bonds are priced, in this case as fixed rate bonds, they'd be locked in. Don't have to worry about it. They'll be set in stone moving forward. Under both of these scenarios, on page 4, we'd be looking at issuing level debt service. So if you look at the sewer project, which would be in this case the 2020A bonds, we're anticipating that $4 million borrowed costing on an annual basis about $200,000 a year for 30 years. And on the 2022 Bs, which would be the $13 million project for Borough Hall, we're looking at about $680,000 a year, all the way through maturity in 2021, which is slightly more than you're currently paying, but not significantly more than you're currently paying on your outstanding debt. On the bottom of page 4, you can see what we're estimating as the all-in, it says PIK, which is true interest costs. Based on current market conditions, we're looking at about 3%, 2.94, and an all-in TIK of about 3.01. Now, obviously, that can change as market rates move, or market rates move daily. So, as market conditions change, they could go up, they could go down, but in that area. Moving on to page 5, we look at the time and events. So, right now, what we're looking to do is price bonds in January, mid-January, about January 13th, if that's the desire of the borough, and at which point we would then close those bonds in February, and the monies would be wired to the borough at closing, anticipated about on February 8th. Obviously, as we move forward, these things change depending on how quickly the borough would like us to move. Let's slow down. We should move all those things to change. So what we do is, after tonight, we have to go ahead to the borough and say, yes, please move forward with this. we would start drafting the documents necessary, particularly the preliminary official statement would be the offering document that would go out to the market. Then we would work with the borough and Kevin Reed to put together the approving ordinances for your adoption. And then also working with an underwriter who would then go out and sell these bonds. So in that time frame, we would be back here to meet with council to give you guys an update on the numbers based on the current market conditions, as well as a parameters ordinance for you to consider on December 6th. That parameters ordinance would have a not to exceed amount in it, so it would be grossed up fairly significantly. And again, that will not get, but that's because of the state, local government, and debt act requirements. We would bring that back, and we would have put that on that. And then upon approval, we'll be forward with pricing in January. So that's kind of a quick overview. I know it's a lot. Happy to answer any questions. Also, Kevin is here to answer any questions on legalities, both the borough and the state.
Anybody have any questions?
Shane, were you able to ask the question that you brought up in the budget meeting?
I
last week?
I did not. Yeah, I didn't
So
get.
I have a question for you then. So we're just gonna use the numbers you have here.
Yep.
For the remodels and stuff. So let's just say $13 million. $1 million-ish of that, Shane, is contingency costs, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say for some reason contingency costs come in at 200,000, essentially $800,000 excess, let's just say. How does keep that money? Do we have to pick a second project for that to go to? How would that play into a bond offer? If it came in less than what?
Right, you had excess proceeds.
Correct,
on it.
yes.
I'll let Kevin answer this. This is a legal question. I do know the answer to it. But you would either have to reallocate or buy back bonds if you had to. But even still, let's say it was only 200,000, there is also a threshold that you're allowed to be within as far as that number. But you also have 3 years date of issuance. But I'll let Kevin address the details of the
Good evening, Kevin Reed with King Spry. We've had the pleasure of serving as bond counsel for the borough for the last several issues. It's a very good question. It's a very important question, and I'm going to answer that question, but I also want broader scope. So, first of all, you have to understand the dynamic of the finance team. The finance team is counsel, administration, your solicitor. My office is special counsel for bond counsel, also FA. Each of us have different roles to play. And my role is to help guide you through the state and federal regulations. Your question goes specifically to federal regulations. When a municipality gets to issue, these would be tax exempt rates. So the rates that Ryan just shared are tax exempt rates. These are not the type of rates that we would get personally for our own projects. We get taxable rates. The IRS lets municipalities to do this, but they have to do it under certain rules and regulations. Essentially, you being able to issue this tax exempt is the exception to it. So we have to go through a variety of hoops. One of those hoops is when you get proceeds, you are required to spend the proceeds. Now there's a couple tests. The main test is you need to spend 85% of the proceeds in 3 years of the closing. There is another provision which talks about having a binding contract for 5% of the proceeds within 6 months of the closing. Now that doesn't mean you have to spend that 5%. You have a contract. Typically that might be, construction manager or architect or something along those lines. Typically that's not a hard issue. And the third test is beyond the 85% in 3 years, you have a good faith obligation to spend the remaining proceeds. Okay, so now we get to your question. All right, so we have this excess proceeds. Ryan is right. One option is to reallocate it. Oftentimes that's a practical reason and it might be more efficient if you have other projects, or you can buy back. Now, sometimes the challenges with buying back are that economically it might not work out in the best circumstance depending upon the rates, but that is a potential. And that is a bridge that can be crossed at that particular time. sorry for giving such a long-winded answer, but I wanted to make sure we're informed of the whole scope and not just ours.
So can I follow up on that then? So if we were to do the reallocate, obviously we have potentially a lot of sewer work, the other 4 million. Does it have to be on buildings because that's what the original one was taken out, or could it be another infrastructure, or how would that reallocation work?
Two aspects to that. First of all, it needs to be for capital projects, useful life of at least 5 years. That will be part of the amortization schedule that Ryan and his team builds up. It's important to make sure we fit within that schedule. Generally, we recommend for the municipality to identify maybe a couple specific projects, but also to have another term, usually other capital projects, which gives you the flexibility to sewer, equipment, or anything else that meets that useful life of the next 5 years. That is the recommended course.
So if we were, again, if you need to take your time and answer this another meeting, that's fine. Based on what you just said, if we were to say for this 13 million or whatever the number is, at the end of the day, it's for the building reconstruction and the sewer project, it can be covered essentially because our sewer project is going to cost us probably 12 million long term, and definitely 4 million that we're borrowing for here.
Yeah, potentially 12 million. Absolutely. I mean, we would spend easily.
Or the Second Street project.
Let me ask you if could you do a generic street reconstruction, or do you have to name the street?
Do not have to name the streets.
Okay.
You can do generic, and once again, that's information. Ultimately, when you decide, obviously, council has its input, but in the actual ordinance itself, oftentimes it's better to be a little bit more generic to provide you with the flexibility to spend proceeds where you need to spend.
So if it was sewer work, we don't have to say it's for lining of the sewer. We could say sewer infrastructure improvements. Okay.
And I still would use, even to your point, I would still use, if you wanted to use building and sewer projects, I would still use and other capital projects.
Okay.
Because you may have something else that becomes a pending need that demands your attention.
Thank you. I think that answered it really well. We had discussion in our committee on that, and we were curious as what the answer was, but I think the answer we got is a good answer because
Absolutely.
that gives us flexibility, and that's what we're looking for. So thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Just one thing to quickly add to that, and certainly if something changes in the future and you need another amortization so that you can allocate to appropriate fund, let us know and we can re-amortize it and say, okay, this portion goes here, to your internal accounting.
Okay. So next steps, Ryan, we have an ordinance that council will need to adopt. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. Actually, I'll let Kevin walk through the approval and the ordinance process, but as far as the next steps for moving forward with the offering document, we would start drafting a preliminary official statement. We would work with you. We would submit that to a rating agency. We would put all that information together. We'd be working on that over the next month. We'd have all that compiled and put together, and then we would be back in December, which I'll let Kevin go into.
Thank you. So yes, so first and foremost, obviously, it's the local decision. What you that's any ordinance. But when it comes to debt in Pennsylvania, there's an act. It's called the Local Government Unit Debt Act that you have to comply with. So there's specific things that need to be in that, and I'll tell you that this is Emmaus. This is the borough of Emmaus. This is actually the 2010 issue. Okay. So ultimately, when we get a closing transcript, there's going to be a fair amount of documentation. And one of the documentation, not to scare you, is the ordinance. It's not this whole book, but it's probably a good 30, 35 pages of is the ordinance. And it's not because I'm in love with writing all these words. It's because of the fact that there's certain state statutes and we have to make sure we specify. So that's why we drafted. Make sure your solicitor also looks at it as well. But within that, there's a couple different requirements. One is that it has to meet the statutory act, and also it has to get approved by the state. There is a formula in which you have to be within your borrowing capacity. Emmaus has been traditionally very well managed, and therefore you have a very good debt portfolio. I'll say it that way, and therefore you will be within your capacity, well within it, so that's not an issue. But you have to do these things, so that the state looks at. They have a 20-day review, period after you would enact an ordinance to review it, to make sure it meets all the provisions. There's special advertising. Unlike your Sunshine Act, you still need to do whatever you need to do with your public meeting ads, but there's specific ads that take place. My office would draft those both pre-meeting and post-meeting, such that the public is informed of the borough's intention, at least to consider. So that's the ordinance process that Brian indicated. After that, there's a lot of documents, some of which are the preliminary offer statement, and some of which we offer statements here too, and some of which are a lot of different certificates, opinions by my office, opinions by your solicitor's office, that needs to be memorialized to effectuate the transaction, to make sure we comply with the state.
Anybody else? Do you have anything else, Shane? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Shane, I do have a question with regards to the bond for the sewer. Is PennVest still an option?
Yes.
Okay,
So that's something that Ryan is investigating with
Okay.
us.
thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was still on the table because of the interest rates. That's all.
So do you need guidance from them, a vote to move forward with anything tonight?
We don't need anything official from council tonight, other than a kind of like a head nod, yes, move forward, start working on documentation, and see you in December. If you want to do, a motion, just so you have something on record, good, but
If we,
We don't. I mean, they'd have to vote to.
I was gonna say, if we did that under the new rules with the
Okay.
Sunshine Act, we would have to obviously amend the agenda. I don't think it would be an issue if the borough wanted to do that, but just to be clear, that would be an issue. If, I don't know if bond counsel has an opinion on this matter, if you would prefer us to do that, we could do so.
No, your point is well taken with regards to Sunshine Act. No, we don't need that. We do need some sense, because I will tell you this, before the December 6th meeting, I need to place an advertisement.
So what I'll say to you, gentlemen, is that Borough Council has been well aware that we're doing this, and none of them have opposed moving forward with the process. And if any of them do, I would ask that they tell me right now. There you go.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Crystal has some.
I have a question and not what you just said. I apologize because I don't remember exactly which one of the two of you I had this conversation with earlier. But a magical number that you talked about was 10 million for bonds.
Yes.
That's out the window because you were proposing 13, or are we separating? Yeah, just so I'm clear.
right, yeah, the 10 million is a bank qualification limit, and at this point, because we could stay under 10 million, but we have to do 2 series. We have to do one in 2022, come back to another one in 23. Since the project is now up over 13 million, might as well.
So the cost,
Don't pay the two of us
it's
twice.
no longer cost effective to do it. Okay, thank you.
And then, as Shane mentioned, obviously on the sewer portion, the how that piece gets financed, whether it's PennVest or whether it's a bond, that hasn't been decided yet, but we will have that for you for the next month.
Good question, Chris. All right,
All right, thank you.
thank you very much, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, under presentation 5B, we have the shelter house. Ken and David Biles, are you going to give us an update on moving furniture or what?
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to present to you tonight. What we'd like to do is share with you a proposed project for the shelter house that does not involve money. The board of directors of the shelter house would like to have a historical learning experience when visitors come to the shelter house. I don't know if Jane wanted. The pictures that are being projected right now show the interior, various perspective of the various walls that we now have. What we would like to do is we would like to try to give the visitor an experience of what it was like be in the mid-17th century here in Emmaus. Now, we're going to try to do this in a couple of different ways. First of all, it's with furniture and tools of that period of time, much like my little exhibit right here. We would like to take half of the great room, which is about 17 by 9 feet, and put into it a typical table, benches, chairs, a dry sink, rope bed, and blanket chest, which is what the early settlers would have had either made or would have brought with them. Along with that, we would like to have some tools that would have been used by these early settlers. One of which brought along is what's called a goose wing axe. It was used to trim off the edges of the logs, to hew them into logs so they could be used as part of the house. The handle was curved so that when the logs were in this position, you could chop at them without damaging your knuckles. The other part we would like to present is what the structures would have looked like as far as the actual notches that would have been used. Now, these are two notches that are very commonly found in Pennsylvania. This one's what's called a crown notch or an inverted V, and the other one is a dovetail, much like the dovetails used in furniture. One is a little bit simpler to build than the other. People don't realize how hard it would have been to actually build a log cabin out. First of all, if they were lucky enough, they came in with a horse, which gave them that power. They had to cut the trees that were relatively nearby. Anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 trees may have been used to construct a typical log cabin, which wasn't very big. Anywhere from 12 to 20, maybe 14 to 20 feet in length and width. Now, besides the structures of furniture and tools and the exhibit of the notches, we also want to highlight the restoration and preservation that has been going on at the shelter house so that future generations can enjoy and appreciate what we have here in Emmaus. A 1734 structure that has been continuously occupied for over 280 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
My brother Dave is going to hand out a copy of an article that appeared in our annual magazine called the Hearthstone, and it was written by Dean Bortz, our resident curator and caretaker, and he illustrates in that a lot of what we would like to actually physically show at the shelter house.
Mr. President.
Yes.
So I just want to say I'm a proud member of the shelter house.
Oh, I do.
It's very exciting to see you are doing this. Is this have you all changed or discussed changing museum hours so that you don't have to make appointments, that you actually will be open?
That would be in the future. We just want to sort of get something. We're going from toys here, hopefully, to an actual experience and concrete items that people can see. So since you people own the shelter house, we wanted to share with you one of the ideas that we would like to continue with.
Anybody else questions? Well, I want to thank you guys for everything you've done for, well, mostly a shelter house, but the borough also. I don't think we get up there enough, and I think that's a gem that we have in the borough that doesn't get a lot of sunlight on, and I think that's something. And it would be nice if what Terry said, that if we could have regular hours where people can visit. I think that would be a great idea to bring some people into the borough.
The thing that we're really looking forward to is there really aren't any log cabins that are colonial, that are furniture and have exhibits like what we want to do. I've been down to the Landis Museum. I've been down to the what's called the Lower Swedish House in Drexel Hill. That goes back to the 1650s. Unfortunately, it hasn't been open for about the last year and a half, so I haven't been able to get in. But from what I understand from other people, they also have some exhibits in there to sort of make it an educational experience. So that, first of all, for Emmaus here, people want to come and see it because we could be one of a kind in a large area of Pennsylvania.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have anything else for us or any questions?
Just back up.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, while they're packing that up, I think we can handle the reading of the minutes. We have the November 1st, 2021 minutes to approve. Somebody like to make a motion to approve them? Councilman Hart, second by Councilwoman McManaman. Any corrections or additions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. No decisions on bids. Under communications, we received the agreement for the Lehigh County Humane Society for 2022 Animal Control Services Agreement. Is this something we have to vote on, or is that going to committee? Or just staff?
No, let's send it to committee.
Public safety?
Yeah.
All right. We'll
Well,
send it-
hold on. When do they meet again? How far are we out? Let's just let's
It's
look
for
at
next
it.
year.
Let's look at it at budget and finance.
No, but Borough Engineers Report, Solicitors Report.
Once again, no report.
Thank you. Unfinished business part 1, we
It
have
saves you money.
nothing, but under new business, we have 4 ordinances. The first one being 1216, an ordinance amending chapter 15, subsection 403 of the codified ordinances, parking prohibited at all times in certain locations. So, Chairman Hart, you want to just go sit on it?
Sure. 1216 deals with elimination of South 7th Street between the North Fork, Southern Tracks and Broad Street. 8. Deputy Chief of Police confirmed neighboring property owners that designated area located on the west side of 7th Street is no longer required. So, remove that.
All right, thank you. Would somebody like to place it in a form of a motion, ordinance 1216? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Councilwoman McManaman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner, Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Balliet,
Aye.
Councilman Hart,
Aye.
Councilman Dufresne,
Aye.
Councilman Ladenburg. Aye. There are 7 ayes.
Second reading will be the first meeting of December because you have 3 weeks between meetings.
That's December 6th, I believe. Ordinance 1217, an ordinance amending chapter 15, subsection 406 of codified ordinances, parking time limited in certain locations, certain days and hours. Chairman Hart?
Yes, 1217 deals specifically with 31 North 3rd Street. And again, it's ascertained that it's no longer required for strict parking by the deputy chief, and therefore make a recommendation about 1217.
Motion by Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Balliet. Any questions? Also, roll call vote. Councilwoman McManaman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner,
Aye.
Councilman Anders,
Aye.
Councilman Balliet,
Aye.
Councilman Hart,
Aye.
Councilman Dufresne,
Aye.
Councilman Ladenburg. Aye. There are 7 ayes. Ordinance 1218, an ordinance amending chapter 15, part 8 of the codified ordinances, snow and isomers. Chairman Hart again.
Yes, 1218 is something that's being looked at for the last several months in public safety, and with in-depth analysis by police, fire, and ambulance to update our snow and ice emergency routes in the borough. Included in your document, you see are the areas now to be designated beginning July 1st of 2022. This will require the purchase of some new signs, which some areas where we had that kind of restriction before no longer existed. So we have to sign areas that are noted on page 2 of that document. Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Hart. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussion, questions?
I just want to make note that there are a couple of small clerical things that need to get cleaned up. Nothing that changes any content in the ordinance at all.
So I looked at the list and I thought it was very good. I was just curious, were there any that were removed or added? Or which one?
I can speak to one, Keystone. Avenue goes by
That
my
was
house.
removed because I don't remember
It
that.
was,
Oh, it's- Okay.
because I call it the King, so. And I questioned that when I saw it, and they explained to my satisfaction as to why it was.
And pretty much everything else is the same. Good. Anybody else?
There were, again, a little bit of cleanup of, I think, what intention was for routes and what the routes were actually showing, in particular up in the northern end of town. So we cleared that up a little
Little
bit.
Acres.
Yeah.
Roll call vote, Councilwoman McManaman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner.
Aye.
Councilman Anders.
Aye.
Councilman Elliott.
Aye.
Councilman Hart,
Aye.
Councilman Dufrain,
Aye.
Councilman Langberg, aye, there are 7 ayes. All 3 of these, well, all 4 of these actually will have their second reading, December 6th. We have ordinance 1219, an ordinance repealing part 4, chapter 15, subsection 406 of the codified ordinances, parking time limit in certain locations, certain days and times, and replacing the entire section with amended streets, days, hours, and parking time limits. Chairman Hart.
Thank you. This is something that has been going on for a number of months. Downtown parking problem has been an issue discussed and surveyed during the past 6 months or so. This was precipitated by various written complaints received by the borough and members of council. And the Public Safety Committee asked Mr. McMahon and her communications committee to take a look at it. Mrs. McMahon, part of the health of
Business development.
I was ashamed. Business development committee, and they did a survey of all of the downtown residents. Actually, the survey was well represented. And it came back to public safety and the police, and seeing the results of the survey, were asked to walk around town and take a look at areas themselves based on their experience of parking tickets that were given out this summer. And as a result of that, they came up with their recommendations, which are embedded in this document. The principal change is the downtown area being a 3-hour and also a 30-minute area to accommodate parking for the businesses. One of the things that we heard was that 2 hours was not enough for some of the business, and there was a desire to have 1/3 park, which is in this particular document. The addresses on the second page of that grid were ones that were very specific and were in ordinance previously. So the recommendation is to adopt this as written with designated areas, principally with 33 hours, and so there's a map.
Motion by Councilman Hart. Is there a second? Councilwoman McManaman. Any discussion?
Mr. President, today I spent most of the morning after I saw this on the council agenda on Friday. I went to spoke to about 30 different business owners in the downtown that said if this was something that would go into place, that it would be extremely negative on their business having 3-hour parking. I collected a little over 25 signatures from business owners saying that 3-hour parking isn't going to fix the issue. Parking turnover. Most places, customers might spend, half hour, 45 minutes in each store And they think that a lot of their problem is with parking is either employees or tenants parking. It's not the customers. If anything, they would like to see even more 30-minute parking to be able to have a revolving door put on it. I went from the triangle down and then the triangle up. And I have an equal amount of businesses that I wrote down that were closed today. I guess what I would ask is to not maybe table this, have a little bit further discussion. John's meeting lasted a little over an hour and 6 minutes. I know that they had, I don't know, 6 or 7 topics that they covered today. I think I would like to see maybe like a committee formed, and where maybe we take the responsibility of going out.
Maybe a misunderstanding, Mr. Valley. We discussed it at 4 separate meetings,
I understand.
and Mrs. McManaman's committee discussed it at least 2 or 3 meetings. So it wasn't a singular 1 hour, 10-minute meeting that we came up with.
So most of these businesses, I asked them, they're familiar with a recent study, and none of them were familiar with the study.
The same ones that participated in the survey.
Councilman DeFrank.
Not sure.
Chad, respectfully, can I ask you to go out with your video camera on your phone at 10, 12, 2, 5, and 7 p.m. every night, 2 weeks? Just go up and down the street, take a video. I've already done it multiple times. Can I request you do it so perception doesn't override reality? That's all I ask. A lot of time was spent on this.
Any more discussion? Councilman Edwards.
So, and I don't know what your survey says, but I'm just thinking of, say, hair salon right here in a triangle. And I don't know what they said, but I can tell you as a husband of a person that does hair for a living, they come in for a perm or color, they could easily be there and need that 3-hour time frame. Sure, there's some other businesses, depending on what you're going for, it needs 4.5 hours, even if you're going into the financial institution over here.
He also signed that 3-hour parking would hurt him.
It would hurt him.
It would hurt him.
So I'm not saying that he may need less time, but I've been in there at least an hour and a half. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a one-stop shop, but, I could tell you that hair salon right there is going to need that taste it for their appointments.
I think that's one store out of 15. So
It
you
is,
have-
but I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, so you have, how about we use the drugstore as an example, the antique shop, Edward Jones. You have a interior design upholstery shop there. All of those places you kind of pick up and drop off. And then as you come down across the store, do you shop for shoes for 3 hours or go to a dentist appointment for 3 hours? And even if you do use the dentist,
I've had a root canal been in there for quite a while.
both dentists signed this and said that if they're not quick appointments, that they do have parking lots available. We went to the attorney's office, signed it. House of Metalworks, Armetta's, Swati Thai, Let's Play Books, Better Homes and Garden, FD Design, was paints, insurance agent. As you go through, none of these people need.
Can I see that, Chad?
Absolutely.
With all due respect, I'd like to make a point. Because there's 3 hours permitted, doesn't mean that people who are buying things downtown need to stay in that slot.
So listen,
for 3 hours.
And this is where the conversation started. It wasn't the shoppers that are spending the 3 hours there. It's the tenants that live above the apartments that
But that's
don't have to move until
That's a
11.
separate issue.
that they don't have to move. But what we're gonna do is allow these people to park their cars there. Most of these stores close at 5 o'clock. So you're gonna have an average of probably 1.5 to 1.8 terms of a parking spot for these businesses. Count on terms of parking spots.
But I would go back to what Mr. Frank said, when we had 2-hour parking, that there was still plenty of space left. And the extra hour is not going to be
So if it's not a
restricted.
if it's not a thing, then why are we changing?
part of what we want is for people to actually walk around in downtown also.
Anybody else have comments? Or question?
I would just like to comment that the police department gets an awful lot of complaints. And we were told as the Public Safety Committee, if we changed it to 3 hours, 95% of those complaints that were called in would be gone. We have to react to what we know to be true. We hired 2 downtown officers and the enforcement has gotten much better. And as Mr. Hart said, that just because we are changing it to 3 hours does not mean that people are going to, are going to be parking there for 3 hours. And I just wanted to also make the point that I would have loved you to have joined us in this conversation when you saw these meeting minutes of CRD and of public safety, when we spoke about this, we spent so much time on this. And I'm not saying that there are mistruths. I'm just saying that I'm not quite sure that within a 2-month time change, that the same people that we talked to and the same people that you talked to have now completely done a 180. I don't understand that.
I can't explain it, but
But we officially went out as a survey team to do that. So again, with all due respect, I think the process works. The process certainly worked for CRD and for public safety. And for us to be having these conversations is very healthy. But I also think depending on the day, the month, the mood, you might get an awful lot of different comments from the store owners. or businesses.
Anybody else comments? All right, now I'll take my turn. I've been very patient. Usually I jump in, but I didn't this time. Would they have come here if you didn't solicit their signatures? Because I don't see anyone here. That's my first thing. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just asking to make you think about that. Like Mr. Hart said, just because it's 3 hours doesn't mean they're going to be parked there for 3 hours. And you kind of proved that point when you mentioned 3 businesses yourself, when you said, well, if you put 3 hour parking there, they're not going to park there for that long because they're going to the dentist or whatever else. So you made that point yourself, that they're not going to stay there for 3 hours.
I also made the point that it's not.
I'm not finished. I'm getting there. You brought up about tenants. That's where you want, right? Okay, I'm covering it. That comes down to an enforcement issue. I can't see a tenant coming out and moving their car every 3 hours. So if they're parking there because it's 3 hours now and they think they can get away with it, it's going to come to us enforcing. If we enforce it, I think that takes care of the problem. The only concern I have is businesses come and go, and we're doing this map based on the businesses that are there now. 3 years from now, those businesses where we have 30-minute parking may not be appropriate now because, I don't know, it's a convenience store and they're going in and out. So we have 30-minute parking as an example. That's my only concern. 3 years from now, it could change, but maybe we just address, certain businesses at that time. But I think you guys put a lot of time into it. It's well thought. Chad, I also appreciate your opinion. I can understand the turnover, but I don't think people are going to take advantage and take 3 hours of parking. Every place there's 3 hour parking. So that's my 2 cents. Anyone else? All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any more comments? All those in favor say aye.
No. Roll call.
Oh, ordinance. Roll call for ordinance 1219. Councilwoman McManaman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Baumgartner.
Aye.
Councilman Anders.
Aye.
Councilman Balliet.
Nay.
Councilman Hart.
Aye.
Councilman DeFrank.
Aye.
Councilman Lambert. Aye. There are 6 ayes and 1 no. Councilman Balliet. A second reading will be December 6th. Good debate. We have unfinished business part 2, which there is nothing. Does anybody have anything to bring up that's not on the agenda? All right, hearing none. Mayor's report.
I have no report this evening. Progress.
Thank you. Committee reports. We have Public Works Committee Chairman Anders.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Nothing for official action this evening. We do meet on Wednesday at, starting at 3 p.m. for our second round of interviews for Public Works Director. And after that, our next meeting is December 8th at 4 p.m. And with that, I'll report progress.
Thank you. Health, Sanitation, and Coast Committee Chairman Balliet.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we have one thing for official action, and that would be to replace the fellow that we actually sent off on Friday with a balloon party. Mr. Farnsworth, I guess, is technically officially retired, and he had a nice little get together with a lot of friends, and a lot of people from other communities showed up, which I thought was very cool. And I guess when his time is done, he will work here for been employed here for 33 years and 4 months, I think was his official math that he shared with us. And in our committee, we have been going through lots of interviews, and Shane and Sarah have narrowed it down to 3, and then we did a bunch of interviews. And I'd like to recommend for council that we hire Brian Wilheimer at a salary of $65,000 a year, contingent upon successful completion of a background check. And he would, all that, starting in about 2 weeks. I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman Balliet. Is there a second? Councilman Hart, discussion? I read all the 18 pages of the interview comments from, I believe they're all your comment. And I'm pretty excited about the hire. It sounds like he's going to fit in well here.
Yeah, just a little bit of brief background on Mr. Billheimer. He oversees the City of Allentown SWEEP program, which is their property maintenance and enforcement program, and their solid waste. And somehow he also inherited their animal control, right? So he oversees their recycling and their solid waste, as well as their property maintenance and code piece of that. And
He can do all 3 here.
he's turned into a professional animal control guy too. So we're excited. We had some very qualified candidates apply for the position.
Very, very tough choices.
Can he do health officer and fire safety?
He might. We'll see.
Well, we can do all 5.
We'll see.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
I was just going to ask you if you were amending my motion with all of that. With that, we have not had a meeting since our next meeting is going to November 24th at 4:45. With that, I'll progress.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee Chairwoman Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item for official action, that is No Parks Love Car Show. So in past council meetings, we had information about this event, and since then we've had 2 meetings with them just to work out some details and get some questions answered. The Mopar group has a fundraiser that they do where they do cruise nights, April through October, and they would like to have their cruise nights at our Maze Park. And so we'd like to put it in the form of a motion to approve the use of Park by Mopar Madness, the Lehigh Valley, on providing a certification of insurance in borough, coordination with management and DPW, and finalization of dates to include the second and last Saturday of each month from April through October 20.
Motion by Councilwoman Baumgartner, seconded by Councilman Anders. Any discussion? So I read the meeting notes from your committee, and it mentioned that the upper lots when you first walk or drive into the park, I believe Councilman Anders said there's 60 or 80 spots there, but it said that it averages 110 cars and sometimes up to 150. So I'm just wondering how
2 lots.
So
with 60, 80 in both lots.
so there's
Yeah.
Okay, so I was assuming that was both lots combined. So then that works out. Okay, thank you, because that
who
was my
wrote those
concern. I was like, where are we going with the other cars?
Yeah, so they actually, we met with them, we discussed possibilities.
Doesn't
and
say that in there.
Who wrote those notes? Jeez.
in the last 2 weeks,
Right.
they actually visited the site multiple times to confirm what numbers would work
Okay, well, that's great. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be bringing a lot of people into the borough. This is fantastic. Pete, how many times have we had something in the park? I know the summer concert series, people come in and like when you go collecting donations, they'll say, this is the first time I was at this park. I never knew it was here. You hear that a lot, and this is gonna bring people in that are gonna say the same thing. So I'm excited about this. All right, any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes.
Thank you. We're excited to have them and it's for a good cause. So, our next meeting will be December 7th at 4:45 via Zoom or for progress.
Thank you. We have Public Safety Committee, Chairman Hart.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to all of the ordinances that I talked about previously, we had a discussion, a long discussion about fire foam. Apparently, we have supplies of ARAFF foam concentrate containers, which is no longer permitted for training purposes. I mean, it's a dire situation on fire. However, after much discussion, our committee felt the best track was to get rid of all of the foam that presently has that is considered toxic. And there were 865 gallons of it. We're looking at about $30,000 bill to dispose of that. Foam. So.
All right, there's a motion by Councilman Hart. Is there a second? Councilman Dufresne, any discussion?
Just properly disposed. Just so nobody reads negatively into that.
We're not gonna pour it down the toilet. No.
Got to be clear in this game.
So we can't go over to Salisbury Township. Just a clarification, when I read the meeting notes, you said 850 gallons, but in the meeting notes, it says 350 gallons.
We're aware of that. He did an inventory after that.
So 350 went to 850, and that's why it went from 12,000 to 30,000. Okay, I just wanted a clarification because all right. Any other comments? Councilman Hicks?
I'm assuming this comes out of the fire fund for this year.
No, we'll discuss that in a few minutes. Okay. Of where it's coming from.
Okay, from budget and finance. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, there's 7 ayes.
That's the end of my fun. Our next meeting is December 3rd at 9 a.m.
Thank you. General Administration Committee is myself. We have the police pension investing policy and the employee pension investing policy. They are the same, but we have to have 2 separate votes. It's a 5-year plan, and it's going to be based on the current plan that we're using now. So it's well, how did she describe it? It's not a conservative investment.
No, it's a 60/40 expanded format.
Yes. So would somebody like to make a motion for the police pension investing policy for the 60/40 expanded plan? Councilman Dufresne, seconded by Councilman Hart. Any discussion? Just to point out, it doesn't have to stay like that for 5 years. If circumstances change, we can adjust if we want. We're not locked into this. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Now, would somebody like to make a motion for the employee pension investing policy with the 60/40 expanded plan? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Dufresne. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Water public notification, I'm assuming we have to make a motion to approve that because it's going to be a mailing, correct? And we have to do that within 30 days. So,
Well, I think we should probably just discuss what's going on here.
all right. So do you want to discuss it first and then make a motion?
Yeah, I'll so one of the reasons why Mr. Hart's committee had the foam removal is because there is a pollutant found in our water drinking system in well 2 in particular, which is one of our main wells. It's PFAS. If anybody's been reading the infrastructure bill at the federal level, they will know that PFAS was discussed We received well inspections just in the last couple months, and we've done 4 different inspections or 4 different tests. And well number 2 is at a higher than normal elevated level, and what that requires is that we send out a tier 2 notification to the public. Now, Pennsylvania DEP, and I'll go on the record because I said it to them, is pretty clueless as to what to do beyond the notice. And as I explained, and we had a good discussion at budget and finance, or at the budget workshop, it's not enough for us to just send out a notice to the public to say, hey, there's PFAS in your water. Now, PFAS can come from a lot of things, right? And if you read about it, it comes from if you have your water too hot in your shower, you can be breathing in PFAS. It comes from plastics. If you leave a plastic water bottle in your car and then you drink the water when it's warm, PFAS can get in that water bottle. However, it also, and very clearly, comes from firefighting foam, and in particular, firefighting foam that's 3 years old or older. And why I say that is because it was about 3 years ago when the notification went out to fire departments that there was a chemical in firefighting foam. So as I'm not sure that Mr. Hart said it, but we stopped using that foam at the request of the state about 3 years ago, but it's still stored there. At our fire training grounds, unfortunately, for many, many years, for many decades, they used the foam to do training. And over the years, just like anything else, it's why you're told not to spray weed killer around your well, because over the course of 2 decades or 3 decades, eventually it's going to get down to your well. The chemicals from the foam have made it down to the well, essentially is what the readings are showing. So we have to send out a tier 2 notification. On top of that, we're going to be voting, I think, in budget finance here in a few minutes. Because like I said, we weren't satisfied with the, hey, let's send them a notification, because DEP doesn't necessarily regulate the chemical. So, their role is send out the notification, let the public know. Our response is, yeah, that's great, but that's not enough. So we need to mitigate and clean that water coming out of the system. And so you're going to be asked to vote on a carbon cleaning system later on in the meeting, which we'll get to. But for now, what I'm asking for is direction as to how we want to send the notice. We can just do it in the newspaper, or we can do mailers, but we need to direct how we're going to do it, and we need to do it technically by the beginning of December.
Shane, when does the next newsletter go out? We could do the newspaper if there's a newsletter going out soon.
The newsletter actually, so the winter newsletter is already written, typed, done, ready to go. So yeah, that's already been off the printer.
Spring.
It would be
Or no, yes.
April, I think, would be the spring newsletter.
Well, we can still put it in there, but what is the cost for a mailing for everyone?
Well, so we'll just call it 52 cents a household.
4,000.
I mean, we can get a bulk mailer probably like 46 cents or 41 cents, but times about 4,200. So let's call it $2,500 for a mailer.
Budget.
Yeah, I think Mr. Mayor. Is there any possibility for putting insert?
Yeah, the problem that we have is we have to do some kind of public notification within the 30-day period, which puts us in December. But you're talking about the upcoming newsletter, so that comes right from the company and mailed. Well, we can try. I'm not sure where they are with it. We can try. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can try. I'm not sure. That mailer has to be on its way. It's got to be really close, because we try to get that out before Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure that we're gonna.
Well, I mean, after hearing that, I think the right thing to do is to send a separate postcard out. What do you guys think?
I agree.
They need to know. I filter my water already at my house, so it's not an issue for me. But there's a lot of people that don't do that. So you need a motion.
I would ask for a motion to do the mailer.
Councilman
Make that
Anders,
motion.
moved by Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilman Hart. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. There are 7 ayes. Our next meeting is November 18th, 9 a.m. on Zoom. Budget and Finance Committee Chairman DeFrank.
Thank you, Mr. President. Few items for action tonight. The first one is the bill list resolution 2021-43. Resolved by Borough Council to authorize the payment of the November 15th, 2021 bill list as follows. Bill list $475,080.49. Payroll number 22, $164,870.79. Payroll taxes $53,643.09 for a total of $693,594.37 on this 15th of November 2021. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman DeFrank, second by Councilman Hart. Any discussion on the bill list? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? There are 7 ayes.
All right, next on our list is the Ncr Payroll Contract. So they've been doing our payroll for a while, and a few years ago we switched to the newer system, and now the contract's up, and now they're offering us a 5-year contract. Talking to Shane and Christine, we're happy with their services. They actually eliminated one of our recurring monthly fees, and our per employee per month fee is either exactly the same or slightly lower. I don't quite recall what Christine said, but overall the net cost should be slightly less, and we're satisfied with their service. So I put into the form of motion to sign the NCR 5-year contract for payroll services.
Motion by Councilman DeFrank, second by Councilman Balliet. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are 7 ayes.
All right, next is the purchase of the water tank carbon system that Shane talked about a little bit earlier here. So it's in your packet here. As Shane said, we're not going to wait for a bill to get passed to try to get these pollutants out of our well here. So I'm going to put in the form of a motion to buy the Model 10 modular carbon absorption system for an estimated cost of $350,000 plus installation costs. And it's in the form of a motion.
Motion by Councilman DeFrank, second by Councilman Hart. $350,000 is for the system, and that's not including installation. Do we have any idea who installs something like that? Have we looked at it yet?
Not
We
yet.
don't have a clue who's capable of doing that or the cost involved. All right. And we'll also have the carbon filters that will have to be replaced on a yearly or regular basis, and it's about $35,000 a year.
Was it 35 or was it 15? I don't remember. I know that there's a
So
cost,
there's a
35,000 a year.
cost for the filters.
Yeah.
So anyhow, any more discussion or questions?
Yeah, I would just suggest that, and everybody would need to understand, just like the strippers on the wells, in some of the wells, this is going to be a forever cost. This isn't something that cleans itself. I think I read something like a PFAS, if found in a system, can last 115 years or some crazy number like that.
They call it the forever chemical.
So yeah, so it's not something that's just going to disappear.
It's called forever.
So that's going to be a forever maintenance cost on that well.
On the plus side, carbon, if it's like the carbon filter I have at home, it removes a lot of stuff besides just what we're removing.
Yeah, so
It'll
there
take a lot of stuff out.
there is there are several municipalities that have done this in the past, and they've done test cases and they've done test studies on them. It doesn't just remove PFAS. The carbon system will pretty much, it cleans the entire thing. If you think about your well at home, if you have a well, I guess nobody in the borough has. Well, I have a well at home, but I have a similar system on my well, and it completely cleans. It completely cleans the entire system.
Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 7 ayes.
All right, next we have Mr. Hart has a question.
Councilman Hart.
Will this communicate about purchase of device to go along?
So that's one of the reasons why we're dealing with DEP right now about what that notice is going to look like. It's imperative that we inform the public, that yes, this is an issue. This is what it is. But here's what the borough of Mesa is doing about it. We're not going to sit on our hands here's what the solution is.
And we're
Do you-
not required to do it. I think we should let them know that we're going beyond what we have to do.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, we're not required to do anything, which yeah, I find almost offensive, except notify them. You know, it's strange that, well, you have to tell them, but yeah, it's okay. So, you know, I applaud you guys because I think it's important. And the other thing I think, Chris, what we didn't talk about, and maybe we should, is where that funding is going to come from for this payment.
Yeah, we can
Should we
mention that.
should we talk about
This is gonna come from federal money that we received 2020.
21? Yeah,
So it's gonna come from 1.3,
some 1 point, yeah, something like that.
the 1 point some million dollar money we received from the federal government from one of their programs that can be used on infrastructure. some
For water
infrastructure.
systems.
Right, there are
Water
certain
systems. Correct.
things that can be used for, but this is one of
So it's going to come from the government funding that we received from their COVID funding.
It would have been nice to use it for other things, but you know, thankfully we have it because that would have been a pretty big increase for water rates. So,
All right, and then Shane, I would assume that discussing where the phone disposal is gonna come from, you meant for the budget and finance meeting on Thursday, not here tonight.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
and then you can see the meeting notes in there, an extensive list of meeting notes. If there's no other questions, I report progress. Our next meeting is this Thursday, November 18th at 11 a.m. via Zoom.
thank you. Community Relations Planning and Development Committee Chairwoman McMenamin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing for official action this evening, but I do want to make you aware of our committee notes. Please refer to those in your packet. There was a small presentation by Altitude Marketing about the next and final stage of the visioning, Emmaus Visioning 2030. We are in preliminary stages of that, but our committee will be working on that much more in depth, and we'll be able to tell the public what we're doing and of course council. Our next meeting is December 13th at 4:30 via Zoom. I report progress.
Thank you. Under boards and commissions, you have the Shelter House newsletter and pension board meeting minutes. Personal appeals part 2, if anyone has a personal appeal. Mr. Arnucci, I think you're the only one here.
We do have one member
Oh, Lynn's on there.
on yeah.
You're good. It's been about 18 years since forgot. Okay. Good job.
Thank you for sticking around. Most people would have taken off by now.
It's amazing. Yes, thanks.
Appreciate it. We'll unmute Lynn and see if she has a public appeal. If you do, Lynn, state your name and what your appeal is. Hearing none?
Oh wait, here she comes.
You teasing me?
No, she unmuted.
Lynn, do you have an appeal? If you do, we're not hearing you. Well, we're not hearing no, and we're not hearing yes.
Then we'll go with the no appeal.
All right. Which leads us to the borough manager's report. Shane.
So you have another budget workshop tomorrow. I will work tonight to get some information into your packets for tomorrow. So the goal of tomorrow is to start balancing, take another look at those areas that are not balanced yet, because that's the purpose of the meeting tomorrow, is start balancing the budget. You have I think you have a lot of work to do tomorrow. So the department managers are going to need to be prepared to discuss the items that may not be priorities for them, but also to be able to defend the areas that are priorities for them. And I would expect that you be prepared to ask the right questions that you need to ask and have the discussions that you need to have, because it's not $1 or $2 here and there tomorrow. Like, now it's time to get to work. So be ready, each and every one of you, all 7 of you, to start balancing that budget. Okay. Outside of that, I will report progress.
You had some hires. You want to mention?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm hiring and promoting, and I have all sorts of stuff. So I was hoping just to stop for one night. So I guess I've hired Brenton McLaughlin as a part-time firefighter. I hired him last week. Brenton comes from the western part of the state where he was a firefighter. We vetted him, highly recommended. So we hired him. And there is something that there's two items. Like I said, I was really trying to get out of this. There are two items I need you to vote on. The first one, you'll see an email or a letter from the president of the Arts Commission asking for removal for a member, Joe Getz, who has not been attending their meetings, and they've been trying to have her simply resign. But as you know, per our ordinance, if a member of a commission is unresponsive, we have the right to remove them for not
Is there a motion to
participating.
remove Jill? What was her last name? Gates. Councilman Hart. Second, Councilwoman Baumgartner. They've been contacting her since 2019 and she hasn't responded, so I think they should have done it a year ago already, but okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There's 7 ayes.
All right.
Promotions.
Promotions, fire department. So among the many hirings and promotion processes that we're going through right now in union negotiations, one of the processes is the promotion for fire department officers. We had 6 applicants for different positions. We conducted a testing process that included a written examination as well as an oral board examination from chiefs from across the Lehigh Valley. And then I conducted interviews with each of the candidates. And then I met with the directors of the department to really examine what our leadership called pyramid, what our leadership team should look like as far as the number of positions, the number of people, and then the candidates in particular. And so I'm recommending to you to approve the following board of promotions. I'm recommending Thomas Carl be promoted to assistant fire chief. I'm recommending Troy Rabb be promoted to captain. I'm recommending Sean Lubinetsky to be promoted to captain. And I'm recommending Eric Gopin to be promoted to lieutenant. You have a bunch of information on each of these gentlemen in your iPad. You also have a confidential memorandum from me outlining each of their test scores and some brief information on each of them.
Is there a motion to approve the promotion? Councilman Hart, seconded by Councilman Balliet. Any discussion? We should all be proud of our fire department because it's top notch, just like our police department and ambulance. Might as well throw them all in there. So, with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? There's 7 ayes.
All right. Might as well stay with personnel. So hopefully after Wednesday, the public works process is completed. The codes process is completed. The clerical position for the police department, those resumes are coming in like hotcakes. I think I'm up to 200 at this point already. And the chief of police.
It's funny, nobody can find a job or get people to work for them, and then we have 200 people apply for this.
The chief of police advertisement is out, and we have probably about 75 applicants for that already. And we're also hiring for a part-time wheelchair transport driver as well. And it looks like I've got 2 or 3 that have already applied for that. So,
Mr. Nochi, are you available?
I think that covers the hiring. I don't know anymore.
Well, we have another meeting in 2 weeks. You can bring the ones
I
you
think
forget.
so. I'm not hiring lifeguards right now, I don't think. So I'm okay there.
All right, progress. All right, under president's business, I did tell Shane about this, but the high school approved a course for Red Cross lifeguarding starting in 2023. It's not next year, but it will help us in the future. So that's great that they're doing that. That should help with the lifeguarding situation. I'm going to declare an executive session to discuss union negotiations, just to update council. And there's no action to be taken afterwards. Correct.
Correct.
All right. So with that, we will recess at 8:21. Borough Council is reconvening at 8:50. There's no action to be taken. Is there a motion to adjourn? Councilman Anders, seconded by Councilman Hart. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, 7 ayes. Meeting adjourned at 8:50.